What's up, guys? Neil Orfield here, taking a look at the Stokastic NFL DFS lineup generator for FanDuel lineups for Thursday Night Football between the Cowboys and the Seahawks. While you're coming in, please like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. If you haven't already signed up for the lineup generator, it is still fantastic. $14.95 per week. And of course, that includes DraftKings, that includes FanDuel, main slates, every primetime showdown slate. All of that is included in that $14.95 price. And every single lineup you get in the lineup generator has been run through the Stokastic Sims, bad lineups thrown out. The only lineups you're going to get in the lineup generator are long-term profitable lineups in the Stokastic Sim. So I think it's a fantastic tool, probably the best value option on the entire market. Really powerful tool. All right, we're going to look at some FanDuel single game lineups. Recently, I've been going to the chalky lineup. So it's going to be, in terms of cumulative ownership, these are going to be chalkier lineups, but then you can still find lineups that I think make sense for large field GPPs within those buckets. You can find some lineups that, due to their constructions, are still not going to be duplicated hundreds of times. So that's going to be my goal here, is finding lineups that look really good, solid constructions, but are still not going to be duplicated a ton. So I'm doing chalky lineups. I'm also going to use standard projections. Beauty of these showdown slates is you can choose different game scripts if you really believe in, if you think the Cowboys are going to crush the Seahawks, you can choose this. The Cowboys going 6+ points over their total, the Seahawks going under their total by 6 or more points. You can choose both teams going over for a shootout. If you think it's going to be a low scoring game, that's this bottom button here. Whatever game script you want to choose, you can. I just like to use these standard projections. All right, first lineup we have here. We're leaving 1,500 on the table, which for me, for a large field GPP, this is about the minimum that I will leave on the table, but I think 1,500 is viable. That's going to avoid a good number of dupes. We have CeeDee Lamb in here in the MVP spot. Makes a lot of sense. One of the best projected plays on the slate. There's no salary multiplier, so in the MVP spot, you need the highest scoring player in your lineup. So CeeDee Lamb going to make sense in the MVP spot. We've also got the Cowboys defense in there. And then we have Geno Smith, Noah Fant, and Zach Charbonnet from the Seahawks. I like this. I don't think it's going to be duplicated a ton, in part because, again, we're leaving 15 on the table. Also, we've got the Cowboys defense with a Seattle stack in the flex. So I think a lot of people aren't going to want to play the Cowboys defense with Geno Smith and Noah Fant and Zach Charbonnet. But I think it's totally viable. That it wouldn't be that shocking to see the defense score a defensive touchdown, be optimal, and then the Seahawks still put up a good number of points. So I like this lineup. I think it makes a lot of sense for a large field GPP. And I should be clear, all of my analysis in these videos is geared towards large field GPPs. This is not, I'm not looking for cash lineups here. I'm not looking for really small field GPPs. I'm trying to find lineups that are going to be unique within the largest field GPPs on FanDuel. So I like this one. All right, this one uses the full salary cap. I think that's kind of a non-starter for me in large field GPPs. You can find, unique-ish lineups, lineups that are not duplicated a ton using the full salary. It's pretty tough on FanDuel, though, because you only have 5 players in there, and there's no salary multiplier in the MVP spot. It's really hard to use the entire salary cap and play a lineup that is not duped a lot, especially if none of the players are like 0% owned. The lowest owned we have here is Michael Gallup at 5.4%. I think this lineup is probably going to be duplicated a ton, so I don't love it. I'm going to skip it. All right, here's another one leaving 1,500 on the table. So we've got Dak Prescott in the MVP spot. His only pass catcher is Michael Gallup. Typically, if I have a quarterback in the MVP spot, I prefer to have multiple pass catchers, but I do think that this is probably viable. Dak has not rushed a ton this year, but I think he does have a couple rushing touchdowns on the year. So it's totally viable, especially on FanDuel where it's not full PPR. It's only half PPR. Totally viable to have a quarterback in the MVP spot with just one of his pass catchers. We also have Geno Smith naked here, which I don't love. Again, I typically, even in the flex, if it's a non-rushing quarterback, I prefer to have a pass catcher in there with my quarterback. However, it's only half PPR, and also Geno Smith could spread the ball around to expensive receivers in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. So it's totally possible for Geno Smith to get there without any pass catchers getting there with him if he spreads the ball around a good amount or runs a little bit more than usual, maybe gets a rushing touchdown. So this is one, it's not my favorite because it has both quarterbacks in sort of tenuous spots, that would Geno be naked, Dak with just one pass catcher while he's in the MVP. I'm going to skip this one. I think this is a viable lineup. It's right on the border for me of a lineup that I would play, but I think this is one that you can find infinite lineups here in the lineup generator. So I'm going to keep going and find one that I think has a better chance of winning more frequently. All right, this one uses a full salary cap. This one, see, DJ Dallas, just 1.7% ownership. I prefer this over the earlier one that had Michael Gallup in there. I still think I'm going to skip over it because I still think this one is probably going to be duplicated a bit with, Dak in the MVP with all three of his alpha pass catchers here, all his best pass catchers all in the lineup with him. And then we have DJ Dallas, maybe brings down the ownership some, but I think because it uses a full salary cap, this will be still duped a lot, I think. So I'm going to skip this one as well. 500 left on the table. I'm just going to skip right to, okay, here we go. Leaving 2,500 on the table. We've got Tyler Lockett in the MVP spot, DK Metcalf, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. It's a little bit thin having all three of the Seahawks receivers in there with Lockett in the MVP spot and no Geno Smith, but you still get half point per reception. So it's possible. And on every passing play, the receiver is outscoring the quarterback. So I think it is viable. And then we have Dak paired with Jake Ferguson. So love that. It's close for me. I think I would use this one. I think this one is another pretty good lineup for me for large field GPPs. So there's two that I would play. 500 left on the table. Going to skip. All right, this one's leaving 4,000 on the table. We got Geno Smith in the MVP spot with just one pass catcher in JSN, which again I prefer multiple, but it's totally viable on FanDuel to have just one pass catcher in the flex. And then we have no Dak, but we've got Tony Pollard with Jake Ferguson and Brandon Cooks. I think it's viable. I think this looks like a great large field GPP lineup. We're leaving 4,000 on the table. We've got a lot of players who have high upside in the lineup. We're skipping Dak, but the only player that I think could probably be upgraded to Dak from the flex is Tony Pollard. I don't remember. I don't think Dak's more expensive than 18.5. So Pollard could be switched for Dak, and maybe there's a little bit better correlation there, but it's not really, wouldn't be that shocking to see Cooks and Ferguson get there and Pollard still outscore Dak. Maybe he scores the touchdown. So I like it. I think this is a great large field GPP lineup. Now I'm just going to go through and save these lineups. Once we get to the end, we'll take a look at our final exposures. Looks like we got some bonus lineups here. Yep, we got 240 lineups here. We got 60% Dak Prescott, 53% Geno Smith. It's what you often find on FanDuel. The quarterbacks project the best. Again, it's half PPR, so the quarterbacks are going to be optimal more frequently. Two quarterbacks, the most exposed players here. We got 47% CeeDee Lamb, 40% Zach Charbonnet, 38% Tony Pollard, 33% JSN, and then 30% each of Jake Ferguson and Brandon Cooks. A lot of the highest projected players or the best point per dollar players at the top. No real shocks here. Cowboys defense at 23%. Then you get both of the Seahawks lead receivers in Tyler Lockett 23%, DK Metcalf 20%, and a wide range of players throughout these lineups. So looks good to me. This looks like fair exposures to a lot of great players. So don't mind that at all. All right, hit the like button if you have not already done so. Thanks for watching and good luck tonight.